Shockingly insane. Poor girl with no shoes wins interview against 25 candidates. How she did it? The crowd buzzed with excitement, whispers merging into a murmur that nearly drowned out the heartbeats of the 25 candidates lined up for the interview of a lifetime. Among them was Sarah, a girl barely 17 with scruffy hair and dusty feet. She stood out for all the wrong reasons. The sunlight glinting against the polished glass of the corporate building seemed to taunt her absence of shoes. Did she really think she could possibly win against these well-dressed competitors, some sporting suits that cost more than her entire family made in a month? It was absurd. It was riveting. The interview room felt like a gauntlet. Each candidate sat in stark contrast to Sarah. The smell of expensive cologne mingling with the sweat of their palms, the sharp click of high heels echoing against the marble floor. Sarah's heart raced, the weight of her torn clothes heavy on her shoulders. Yet, an undeniable spark flickered in her deep-set eyes. She had a story, woven into the fabric of her being that was echoing loudly in her mind. I am here. I belong here. But there was a deeper mystery swirling around her. Whispers told of an old woman who lived at the edge of town, known to give out strange charms to the brave souls who dared to approach her crumbling shack. The rumor was that every charm was imbued with good fortune and unspoken magic. Did Sarah seek her out? Or was it mere happenstance that brought her here today? Suddenly, an invisible tension thickened the air, making it hard to breathe. The top executive, a senior woman with eyes like steel, glanced over her clipboard, her expression unreadable. Sarah, you're up, she called, and every head turned. Gasps punctuated the silence. Could the girl with no shoes truly capture the spotlight? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With trembling hands, she made her way to the front. Thoughts cascaded through her mind: her mother's smile, the warmth of her little brother's laughter, and the quiet desperation of their everyday life. What if they discover my secret? She thought. Everything hung in the balance. As she stood before them, the uncertainty on her face, combined with that intense fire in her eyes, created a paradox of intrigue. The room fell silent, all eyes locked onto her as if by some gravitational pull. Could this girl really defy expectations? Could she transform her luck? The question hung in the air like a thick fog just before dawn, and nobody dared break the silence. And then, as if a switch had flipped, the steel-eyed executive leaned forward, the intrigue in her voice undeniable. Tell us, Sarah. How did you get here? And just like that, the world tilted. What would burst forth from her lips? What twist of fate awaited her? Everyone leaned in, breath held, waiting for the surreal to unfold. Sarah's throat tightened. The weight of her reality felt like a boulder pressed against her chest. She could hardly hear herself think as the swirling whispers grew louder in her mind, reminding her of every scar and defeat. But there was a flicker of determination. She refused to let fear silence her. I am here because I need this, she started, her voice breaking slightly but gaining steadiness. My family struggles every day. We don't have much, and I want to change that. A murmur rippled through the audience. Disbelief, curiosity, possibly even pity. But as she continued, the power of her story ignited the room. I've worked odd jobs since I was 13. I've seen how hard my mother fights, and I've watched my little brother go without. Everything I do is for them. The steel-eyed executive's expression shifted. Her curiosity piqued. Sarah's honesty met the mask of ambition worn by the other candidates. She could sense it. Their ambition was fueled by greed, by desire for status. But Sarah's fire burned with a different intensity: desperation, love, hope. Do you think that's enough? The executive inquired, voice low and probing. Yes, Sarah replied, her chest rising with each word. I believe that it is. But I won't do it alone. I'll bring my family along with me because they deserve a chance to. Colliding emotions rippled through the room. Each candidate's face reflected varying degrees of disbelief. The whispers turned into hushed gasps, as if the truth had magnified her vulnerability in the most powerful way. Suddenly laughter erupted from the back of the room, a snicker so cruel it pierced the tension. A sleek, sharp-dressed candidate, Charlotte, rolled her eyes. How cute, parading your sad life story like it's going to win you points? We're in a corporate interview, not a charity meeting. The air thickened again, but this time the murmur shifted. It merged into a storm of whispers that filled the room with an electric energy. Sarah's heart thudded, but she held her ground. You think it's cute? She challenged, her voice steady now, emboldened. You think that just because I'm poor I'm weak? You don't know the half of it. Slowly, the crowd turned from Charlotte's laughter to Sarah's fire. The steel-eyed executive observed closely, intrigued by the unfolding battle of wills. Sarah's emotions radiated like heat waves, her vulnerability flipping into a fierce resilience. I'm not ashamed. I came here with everything I had and I won tea back down. Not now. Not ever. She took a breath, the room holding its air. Was this the moment where the tides began to turn? Would courage and authenticity be enough to break the facade of privilege surrounding her? The tension reached a boiling point, thickening the air until it felt electric. Could one heartfelt declaration overcome years of preconceived notions? Before Sarah could dive deeper, Charlotte shot back, "You're just lucky you got this far. We'll see how you fare in the next round." As if summoned by the challenge, a dark shadow loomed in the doorway. Mark, the rumored assistant to the executive, stood there, his eyes piercing through the tension. "You all need to know," he said, voice low with a hint of foreboding, "this interview isn't going as planned." As silence engulfed the room, something shifted. What did he mean by that? What was about to unfold? Mark's words hung in the air like a lead weight. The energy in the room froze, eyes darting from him to Sarah, as if the balance of the universe had just shifted. What did he know? Charlotte squirmed, her confidence faltering just for a heartbeat. "What do you mean?" She blurted out, anger lacing her tone. "You can't just drop a vague bomb and expect us to." Mark cut her off. "This isn't about you. It's about the future of the company. You think this is just another interview?" His gaze swept over the candidates, a predator sizing up its prey. "I've seen the path we're heading down, and it's not pretty." The air grew thick again, tinged with anxiety. Charlotte crossed her arms defiantly, but Sarah noticed the shadows creeping into her eyes. It was a crack in her facade, a glimpse beneath the polished surface. "What path?" Sarah whispered, her heart pounding. Mark stepped closer, locking eyes with her. "The last few interviews have shown a glaring issue. There's a lack of diversity in our candidates. This company claims to embrace change, but it's still rooted in the past. They need someone who understands struggle, not just academically but personally." His voice resonated with something deep within her that she hadn't quite acknowledged, a shared experience. The crowd shifted restlessly, eager for clarity in this unexpected turn. A poor girl combating the odds could be the face of that change. His eyes flicked to Sarah again and her heart raced. "But it's more than that. There are other forces at play. People in this room will stop at nothing to protect their own futures." The mention of looming shadows sparked unease among the candidates. The murmur swelled again, dark and conspiratorial. Whispers floated through the crowd. Manipulation, sabotage, betrayal. With every passing second, the stakes felt more pronounced. "I'm not afraid of competition," Charlotte finally scoffed, though her bravado was cracking. "This isn't a charity. It's business." "No, it's about integrity," Mark responded, his gaze unwavering. A woman's voice, especially one that has struggled, might disrupt the very foundation of those who believe success is defined by privilege alone. The steel-eyed executive casually took notes, but her expression was unreadable. She had become part of this growing tension, her ruthless ambition now in the spotlight. Taking a breath, Sarah gathered her thoughts. "You're saying I could actually have a chance?" The vulnerability in her voice felt raw and real. Mark nodded slowly, his truth striking a chord deep within her. "Maybe. But only if you're willing to expose what lies beneath the surface. You might have to sacrifice more than just a few assumptions." An unsettling chill crept through Sarah's veins. She could feel the weight of judgment, both for herself and from the others around her. But then it hit her, this was bigger than her, bigger than Charlotte and the headlines. What's at stake? She demanded. Mark's face darkened. Your integrity. Your family's future. And maybe even your life. Those who thrive on the old ways won't take this lightly. As he delivered the unsettling ultimatum, the room collectively gasped. Sarah felt her heart race. There was no turning back now. She was in this fight whether she was ready or not. Just when Sarah thought she could grasp the reality ahead, a loud crash echoed through the room, drawing all eyes to the far wall where a panel of glass shattered into a million fragments. What the hell? Charlotte shrieked. Everyone spun toward the chaos, surprised and shaken. In that moment, the worries of the interview vanished, replaced by a far more immediate fear. What had just happened? And where would it lead them next? A tense silence fell over the room, thick enough to cut with a knife. The glimmering shards of glass sparkled like tiny stars against the stark white wall. The candidates shifted nervously, eyes wide, adrenaline flooding the air. What just broke? Sarah whispered, instinctively stepping back, her heart pounding louder than the echoes of the crash. No one answered. Mark's expression was grim. Stay calm, he said, though his voice trembled slightly. His gaze was fixed on the shattered glass, as if understanding a threat hidden within its jagged pieces. I think it came from the rooftop, someone muttered, a man with a perpetual frown who had been quietly observing until now. There's a construction site up there. But why would they be working today? Charlotte's face paled. This is insane. We need to leave. Her bravado evaporated into thin air, her voice rising in pitch. Wait. Sarah interjected, her instincts kicking in. We can't just freak out. What if someone's up there? They might need help. Mark shifted closer to her. This isn't about safety just yet. It's about what this means for us. The weight of his words hung in the air like a storm cloud, ready to unleash chaos. A cacophony of whispers erupted, fragments of conversation twisting like a fraying rope. But one voice cut through. Sarah's manager, Ms. Gray, her steel demeanor replaced by uncertainty. Is everyone accounted for? She called out, scanning the room with sharp eyes. We need to ensure no one got hurt. Sarah's pulse raced. Still, she felt a flicker of hope. If someone is up there, they might be the key to everything Mark hinted at, she said, looking directly at him. Exposing the truth. Maybe it's all connected. He raised an eyebrow, intrigued yet cautious. You think this wasn't an accident? Could it be a diversion? Charlotte suggested, her voice shaky. The possibility hung in the air like smoke. Suddenly, the executive woman who had been scribbling notes shot to her feet, her expression shifting from detached to alarmed. We should call security now. As murmurs intensified, Sarah's mind raced. What if the crash was a message? A warning to those who dared to upend the status quo? She felt her heart clasping tightly around the edges of fear and purpose. Just then, a soft thud echoed from behind the stage, a sound so faint yet electrifying, drawing everyone's attention. The crowd shifted to see what it was, both curious and anxious. Did you hear that? Mark said, his voice dropping to a whisper. I did, Sarah replied, her eyes narrowing. Something was about to break, and it wasn't just glass. Before anyone could process it, a dark figure emerged from the shadows behind the rubble. The tension in the room flickered like a dying light bulb. Who are you? Someone shouted, but the figure didn't respond. Instead, it simply stood there, cloaked in secrecy and purpose, the chaos of the room cradling their presence like an unsettling secret. Sarah felt a shiver course through her. This was the moment everything spiraled. Her mind raced with questions. Who was this person? And could they break the cycle of deception that had taken root? Get back! Ms. Gray shouted, but Sarah felt rooted to the spot. She knew. Watching this play out could rewrite her fate. And the stakes had never been higher. What if this figure had all the answers? Would they tip the scale in her favor or plunge everyone into further chaos? As the figure stepped forward into the dim light, a chilling reveal was about to unfold, a revelation that would shake the foundations of everything Sarah thought she knew. For better or worse, everything was about to change. The figure finally emerged into the light, revealing a face that sent jolts of shock through the room. It was someone Sarah recognized, someone she had thought was long gone, the silhouette of her former mentor, Jake. His eyes, once full of encouragement, now seemed haunted, tracing the anxiety of those around him. And Mark? Sarah stammered, her breath hitching in her throat. That's Jake. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Charlotte took a step back, a hand fluttering to her mouth. But I thought he was dead? Lost? Mark finished her thought, eyes wide. He was supposed to be. Everyone said so. You can't just give up on someone. Sarah yelled, the disbelief sparking something raw inside her. Jake, what happened? Jake raised his hand, motioning for silence, his face more serious than she'd ever seen. Listen to me. They've been watching. They know what we did. His voice lowered to a harsh whisper, and the weight of his words wrapped around them like a cold shroud. What do you mean? Ms. Gray snapped, her certainty faltering. You can't just walk in here and say, but Jake cut her off. This isn't the time. They're going to come for you all. And you need to trust me. A silence ensued, the tension sharp enough to pierce skin. Sarah's heart raced as adrenaline mixed with confusion. Every instinct in her screamed for action, yet fear held her frozen. Jake, how do you know this? Mark asked, taking a cautious step forward. They wanted me out of the way. The deeper we dug, the more twisted things became. His voice trembled but held a fervor that ignited a spark within Sarah. They didn't want the truth to come out. Some things are meant to stay buried. A diversion then, Charlotte whispered, piecing it together. The crash, the whispers, a warning. Yes. Jake nodded, almost pleading. They're watching this whole process. Sarah could feel it, the doubt creeping back in, the familiar walls closing in. She wanted to scream. What do we do? Just sit here and wait to see what unfolds? We need to regroup. Mark interjected, urgency coloring his tone. Perhaps we can't waste time. Jake interrupted. We don't have the luxury. We need to leave, and we need to move fast. Every eye in the room flicked between Jake and each other, weighing the risk of trusting a ghost against their growing fear. The tension curled around them, stifling their resolve. Do you even know where we're going? Ms. Gray challenged, crossing her arms. You show up out of nowhere with this doomsday scenario, think. Jake exclaimed, desperation clawing at his voice. I didn't come back empty-handed. I have something to show you. Something they want to keep hidden. Before Sarah could respond, another loud crash echoed from above, sending tremors through the floor. The lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the room. Move now, Jake shouted, urgency snapping the group into action. Trust me, or stay here and find out what they have planned for you. Fear collided with hope in Sarah's chest. This bold choice could unravel everything or seal their fates for good. She grasped Mark's arm tighter, ready to make a decision that could change the course of their lives. As they hurried toward the exit, the ominous glow of piercing headlights swept through the windows, illuminating the chaos that lay beyond. Sarah knew they were being watched, trackers on their heels, secrets unraveling with each step. Could Jake lead them to safety or toward danger they couldn't escape? The answer was lurking just out of reach, and behind every decision, another shattered truth awaited. Sarah's heart pounded as they bolted through the exit, the outside world erupting into an explosion of noise and confusion. Sirens wailed in the distance, drowned out only by the urgent clicks of their racing footsteps. Each stride felt heavy, as if the very ground was trying to pull them back into the chaos they were fleeing. Jake, where are we going? Mark gasped, glancing over his shoulder, worry etched deep into his features. There's a safe house nearby, Jake replied, his eyes darting to the shadows. I have contacts there. But we need to hurry. They'll be looking for us. They sprinted down the alley, the cold air slicing at their skin. Behind them, the flickering lights of the building they had just fled stood like a silent witness to their panic. Sarah felt the adrenaline mixing with dread. She could almost hear the voices of those left behind, trapped in uncertainty. Who's they? Charlotte asked, breathless. What did you uncover? Jake slowed slightly, stealing a glance back. It's not just one person. It's a network, he revealed, his voice low but intense. They've buried secrets that could unravel everything you thought you knew about this town. He paused, catching his breath. And they won't stop until they silence anyone who gets too close. What kind of secrets? Sarah pressed, pushing the doubt aside. Things about experiments. The crash wasn't an accident. It was a warning to keep us quiet. Jake's expression darkened. They want to protect their interests at any cost. People are caught in the crossfire. Sarah felt a chill crawl up her spine. The shadows of the alley seemed darker, more threatening. As they turned the corner, She spotted the warm glow of a street lamp ahead, but it did little to ease the sense of impending doom that hung over them. "Keep running!" Mark shouted suddenly. Sarah whipped her head around just in time to see figures moving swiftly out of the darkness, their outlines barely visible but unmistakable in their intent. She could feel her pulse quicken, breath hitching again as panic clawed at her mind. "Jake!" she screamed, the stark urgency in her voice cutting through the dimness. "What do we do?" The next moments unfolded in a blur. Jake pushed them forward, feet pounding against the pavement. The group rounded a dilapidated building, heartbeats echoing against the brick walls. "They're gaining," Jake called out. "Just a little further." Turning a sharp corner, they spotted an old door marked with peeling paint. Without hesitation, Jake yanked it open and ushered them inside. They stumbled into the cramped space, gasping for breath, exposed yet sheltered. Jake pressed a finger to his lips, signaling for silence. The door creaked ominously behind them, an ancient guardian between them and the nightmarish figures now prowling the streets beyond. "What's next?" Ms. Gray whispered, panic simmering beneath her cool facade. "We wait for the right moment to escape," Jake stated, breathing heavily. "The safe house has an exit toward the back. I just need to." A loud thud echoed against the door, rattling the hinges. Fear crackled in the air like a live wire, sharp and potent. "Are they here?" Charlotte's voice trembled. "It's only a matter of time," Jake replied, his calm facade barely hiding the anxiety beneath. "But we're not done fighting. Not yet. There's something I need to show you that will change everything." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small flash drive, the familiar glint of potential revelation casting a light that was almost comforting. This is the key to understanding." "What is on it?" Mark asked, leaning closer, eyes wide. "Everything," Jake asserted. "But first we have to survive long enough to get there." As another heavy thud echoed, Sarah's mind raced. The weight of their situation pressed down on her, the uncertainty hanging in the air like a thick fog. Could they trust Jake? Could they trust each other? Behind them, something shattered, a sign of their imminent discovery. Sarah's pulse quickened, fear swallowing her whole. "What's the truth?" she whispered as the darkness burgeoned, swallowing them further into its grasp. And just as the tension reached an unbearable crescendo, the door burst open, revealing a face they least expected, one that held answers and uncertainty in equal measure. The door swung wide, the hinges creaking like a warning bell. In the dim light, a figure stepped in, silhouetted against the chaos outside. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. It was Alex, a local journalist they thought was long gone, a casualty of the very chaos they were trying to escape. "What are you doing here?" Jake hissed, his calm nearly fraying. "I saw the lights," Alex said, urgency in her voice. "I followed you ever since the broadcast. They're hunting everyone who knows too much." She stepped closer, glancing at the others before her intense gaze landed on Jake. "You were right. The crash, they're hiding something big." "Big how?" Sarah asked, taking a step forward. The distant wail of sirens grew louder, like a mournful chant edging closer. Alex's expression hardened. "I got hold of documents. Files that list names, experiments. It's worse than you think. If they can silence you, they'll bury the whole story." "Are you sure?" Mark asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Trust me, I'm sure." Alex's intensity flared. She pulled a thick envelope from her jacket, its contents shifting under the weak light. "This has everything." A crash echoed from outside, followed by muffled voices. The shadows at the door deepened as figures moved closer, prowling like wolves over their prey. "We can't stay here," Sarah urged, panic rising as the voices grew clearer, the weight of their footsteps echoing through the narrow space. "Quick!" Jake shouted, grabbing the flash drive and the envelope from Alex. "We need to head to the back exit. Follow me." They crept through the musty space with sweat trickling down Sarah's back. Heart racing, she felt the pulse of time slipping through her fingers. The door behind them trembled again, an ominous reminder that safety was transient. Just as they rounded the corner, another loud thud erupted, this one more forceful. Wood splintered as a fist struck with precision. "They're almost in," Jake warned, his eyes wild with urgency. "Move." They descended a narrow staircase that wound down through darkness, each step amplified in the tense silence. The musty smell of old wood and dust filled their lungs as they fled further from the chaos above. How do we know this is going to work? Charlotte whispered, her fear palpable. What if we run right into them? It's our only chance, Jake declared, squeezing the flash drive and the documents in his fist like a lifeline. They reached a heavy door at the bottom of the stairs, age-worn and creaky. Jake paused, pressing an ear against the wood. Listen, there's nothing. Let us go. As he pushed the door open, a rush of cold air enveloped them, carrying the scent of rain and fresh earth. The dim light outside revealed a hidden alley, the sky beginning to dim into twilight. They stepped out, a fragile breath of relief escaping Sarah's lips. But just as they began to move, a blinding light pierced through the gloom, illuminating the alley like a spotlight on a stage. Stop right there, barked a voice. Sarah turned, heart sinking as she saw the figures from before, their silhouettes clear and menacing against the glow. Jake, they found us, she yelled, panic making her voice sharp. Run, Jake shouted, his eyes wild. I'll hold them off. No, the last thing they needed was to be divided. We can't leave you, Charlotte protested. Just go, Jake urged, desperation in his voice. Get the truth out. I'll buy you time. Sarah grabbed Charlotte's arm, dragging her back as they took off into the night. But the fear twisted in her gut, knowing they were leaving behind their only guide in this unraveling nightmare. With each step, Sarah's mind raced, plotting their next move, praying Jake would hold them off long enough. But as they sprinted away, one question loomed heavily: what if Jake had led them straight into a trap? And just when it seemed they could find solace in the darkness, a shadow stepped into their path, grinning with an air of familiarity, holding an unsettling truth in one hand and a weapon in the other. Welcome back, it purrs, eyes glinting with malicious intent, as everything went black. The darkness swallowed them whole, a thick veil wrapping around Sarah and Charlotte. Heartbeats pounded, drowning out every other sound. Sarah's mind raced, grappling with confusion and dread. Who was that shadowy figure? As the scent of rain mixed with adrenaline, she felt her throat tighten. Do you see them? Charlotte whispered, scanning the darkness behind them, eyes wide with panic. No, Sarah said breathlessly. But they're close. We can't stop. The fear of being caught surged through her, each step echoing like a warning in her soul. They dashed into the night, zigzagging through the alleyways, the cold air stinging their skin. Relief felt distant. The memory of Jake standing bravely against the terrifying threat churned in her stomach. Had he really meant to sacrifice himself? Where do we go? Charlotte asked, trembling. The vulnerability in her voice cracked Sarah's resolve. I don't know. Just stick close, Sarah urged, pain lacing her tone. Every corner felt like a dead end. Every shadow could hide a lurking danger. A sudden crash erupted somewhere in the distance, followed by a shout, a voice that sent a chill down Sarah's spine. They were hunting them. The real dread glared at her, demanding answers. A plea rose in her throat, but she swallowed it down. They turned another corner and stumbled onto a deserted street. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows that danced like restless spirits. The world felt wrong. A flash of movement caught her eye. Sarah, Charlotte whispered urgently as a figure emerged from the shadows again. Heart racing, Sarah quickly pulled Charlotte back into the refuge of the alley. Who is it this time? Charlotte asked, her voice trembling as she edged closer to Sarah. I don't know, Sarah admitted, holding her breath, ready to face whatever awaited them. As the figure stepped forward, the glow of the streetlight illuminated a familiar face. It's me. Alex. Alex. Sarah rushed forward, relief flooding her. Thank God. We need your help. Follow me. I have a plan, Alex said, her voice steady and confident now. She glanced behind as though sensing the impending danger. They ran alongside her, but the feeling of being chased clung to them. The adrenaline coursing through Sarah was met with a jarring panic. What if they weren't safe yet? Where are we going? Sarah huffed, fighting for breath. There's a safe house, Alex explained, her eyes flickering ahead. I received word it's secure. We can regroup there and figure out our next move. Regroup? Charlotte echoed, skepticism evident in her tone. What can we do? They'll find us. Not if we're smart about it, Alex said sharply. We have the documents. We have the truth. Her eyes sparked with determination, igniting something in Sarah too. But just then, the sound of distant shouting pulled them up short. The voices, angry and searching. Panic flared in Sarah. They're getting closer. Just a little more, Alex urged, pushing forward through the shadows. As they darted down another alley, a young boy appeared, startled. He froze, staring wide-eyed as they rushed past him. Sarah's heart dropped. No one should be out here. Get home, she shouted, hoping to protect him in this madness. Before they could process the moment, Alex turned sharply, her expression shifting. This way, she urged, leading them into a narrow passage. Sarah felt claustrophobic, walls closing in as they made their way deeper. How do you know this is safe? She demanded, frantically looking around. I just do. Alex snapped, eyes afire. Trust me. They squeezed through the tight passage, tension hanging heavy in the air. A sudden clang resounded, echoing far too loudly, anticipating those pursuing them might already be catching up. Run! Alex's voice was sharp, urgent again. As they emerged back onto another street, a different reality faced them, a blockade of police cars, lights flashing, illuminating the night like a beacon. Are you kidding me? Charlotte gasped, horror in her eyes. They'd run right into a trap, or had they? With officers moving purposefully, Sarah's thoughts raced. The flash drive. Grip felt heavy in her pocket, like it burned with potential. Now what? She said, heart clenching. Alex paused for a moment, her eyes darting around. We'll need to find another way. She pulled them to a side street, crouching low. It felt insane, an abyss of uncertainty opening up. Would they ever escape this nightmare? But as they ducked into the next alley, Sarah spotted that same glint of familiarity. The shadowy figure that had haunted them before stood waiting, leaning against a wall. The malicious grin spread across its face like an unspoken promise, a ghost from their past, holding on to secrets they couldn't outrun. Thought you might come back, it taunted, darkness radiating from their figure, as everything spiraled further into chaos. And before Sarah could even react, a piercing siren erupted in the night, blaring loudly, and everything shifted once again. Run! She screamed as the game was far from over. The shadows seemed to undulate, waiting for Sarah and her friends to make a single misstep. Their hearts raced as they skidded into the alley, where every footfall echoed like a war drum announcing impending doom. Who is that? Charlotte stammered, her eyes wide with fear, glancing back toward the figure. It doesn't matter, Sarah hissed, trying to keep her voice steady. We need to move. But even as she said it, her stomach tightened. Something about that figure felt all too familiar, a bitter taste of old fears rising in her throat. Stop! A voice called out from the darkness nearby. A cop stepped into view, bathed in the swirling red and blue lights of the blockade. Show me your hands. The instinct to run surged through Sarah. This isn't good, she gasped, feeling the weight of the flash drive in her pocket, a burden and a lifeline all at once. Alex grabbed both of their arms, pulling them closer. We can't go forward. We need to go back. Back where? They'll be everywhere. Charlotte cried, glancing wildly from the police officer to the ominous figure. Trust me, Alex urged, pulling them behind a dumpster as gunshots rang out in the distance. They crouched in silence, heartbeats thundering in their ears. What do we do? Charlotte whispered fiercely. This isn't right. We can't just sit here. Shoo! Sarah hissed, her own heart hammering like a prisoner's clock. The reality weighed on her. They were in the lioness den, and the lions were hungry. We wait, Alex decided, her voice steady despite the fear washing over them. If those guys break off, we slip out. We have to lure them away. Lure who? Charlotte asked, bewildered. The cops? Or the figure? Sarah remembered, her mind racing back to all that had transpired. We could make it think we're going to surrender, but really we'll vanish into the night while it's distracted. You really think we can outsmart that thing? Charlotte replied, skepticism lacing her tone. Do you have a better plan? Sarah challenged, a flicker of her old bravado returning as adrenaline surged through her veins. A sudden sound shattered the moment. Heavy footsteps echoed in the still night. Patrols searching, their flashlights cutting through the darkness nearby. The figure was moving closer. Closer, a predator weaving through danger. No fear behind those haunting eyes. I know you're here. It sang, voice oozing with mockery. I can smell your fear. Now, Alex commanded. With a quick motion, she slipped from their hiding place, grabbing Sarah and Charlotte by the wrists. They surged down the alley, ducking into the shadows, laughter trailing behind them like a curse. Not again. Not again. We have to go, Charlotte shouted, her resolve fracturing under pressure. The police lights flared and were behind them. They were cornered, with danger looming from all sides, the figure's laughter fading, replaced by muffled chaos of shouting officers commanding the night. Suddenly, a flash drive slipped from Sarah's pocket, scattering its contents across the ground, gleaming like bait. No, Sarah, leave it, Charlotte screamed, panic leaping into her eyes as the nearest officer spun on them, flashlight beam sweeping the alley. Grab it. We need it, Alex yelled, and Sarah felt her heart plummet. Without thinking, she dashed back, grabbing the drive just as the officers turned. Breath caught in her throat, she shot back toward her friends. But as she reached them, she noticed Alex gritting her teeth. They're splitting up, she said, brows furrowing as they heard another officer calling for backup. What? Sarah faltered, the truth weighing heavy. We can't let them find us. They're staking out the exits. We need to get to that van. Alex pointed at a rusty green vehicle parked further down the road. What if it's locked? What if it's a trap? Charlotte's voice quivered. Then we fight, Alex rasped, pulling Sarah forward. And in that moment, fearless resolve replaced terror. As they approached the van, the engine suddenly roared to life, and in that same heartbeat, they heard the footsteps return heavy and relentless behind them. Now, Alex cried, throwing open the door just as the figure stepped back into view, arms outstretched, shadows swallowing its form whole. Don't you leave yet, it hissed, predatory eyes glinting in the night. Get in, Sarah screamed as the sirens blared an ear-piercing warning, drowning out their fear. But would they escape? Or would they become another victim of the shadows? As Alex jumped into the driver's seat, she cast a desperate glance back at the encroaching darkness, knowing that the fight was far from over. Now would be the moment of truth. Would they finally uncover what was hidden? Or was this just the beginning of a nightmare they could never wake from? Sarah jolted awake, the familiar pounding of her heart echoing in her ears. Everything had been chaotic, a nightmare spiraling into reality, but the stark whiteness of her surroundings reminded her it was real. An aching awareness settled deep inside her. She was alive. They were alive. Are you okay? A soothing voice slipped through the haze. It was Jake, worry etched into his features. He was here, and in that moment, seeing him made everything feel possible again. With a shaky breath, Sarah nodded, her eyes darting around. They were in a safe room, the walls draped in muted pastels, soft light spilling from sconces above. There were no shadows, no lurking figures. Yet fear lingered, the remnants of their escape haunting her thoughts. What happened? She demanded, urgency woven through her tone. We got away, Jake replied, his expression strengthening. Alex drove us to her contacts. They've secured this place for us. But that wasn't easy. Who'd known the figure was lurking, waiting? Charlotte paced nearby, hair tousled, her nerves barely contained. I can't believe we're safe. But what's next? They'll come for us eventually. They will, Jake affirmed, steeling himself. But we have the flash drive and Alex's documents. Those hold secrets, truths that could shake the very foundation of what they've built. Truth, Sarah echoed. A spark ignited in her chest. We can expose everything. The gravity of that thought filled the room, shifting focus from flight to fight. What had they uncovered? What existed beneath the surface of their town? She felt a surge of purpose. They could unravel a web of lies. Are we really strong enough? Charlotte asked quietly, her vulnerability laid bare. Sarah stepped closer, holding Charlotte's gaze. This isn't just about us. It's for every person who has suffered behind the veil. We have to stand up for them. We'll be their voice. An electric charge thrummed in the air. The weight of their shared experiences, their struggles and fears united them in a singular mission. No longer hiding. No longer scared. Let us do it, Jake said firmly, determination lacing his voice. We reveal the truth, and this time we face it together. They huddled around the table, the flash drive glowing like a beacon among the darkness. Sarah's heart leaped at the trust building among them. They were ready. First, we need to analyze the documents and digital files, Alex instructed, her professional demeanor resurfacing. Then we can strategize our reveal to the press, to allies who will listen. We want to be silenced. The plan began to take shape, the air filled with camaraderie and hope. Their vulnerability transformed into a shield, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. As they sifted through pages and data, the threads of conspiracy began to weave a pattern more shocking than they could have imagined. Experiments conducted, cover-ups executed, lives destroyed, the evidence spilled forth. Here Sarah pointed, her voice trembling. This connects them to the accidents, to the crash. The group leaned in, piecing together a puzzle that had haunted their lives. When they emerged from the depths of that room, Sarah felt lighter, empowered by purpose. The shadows that once loomed over them now felt different, weakened. They had secrets on their side. "We'll present everything," Jake insisted. "We'll fight for those who can't. We'll name names." As they gathered together, hands in the center, hearts pounding with unison, Sarah knew they wouldn't back down. They were a force now. Together they stepped beyond the threshold of safety into the harsh light of the world, ready to claim their power. They would expose the truth hidden in shadows, refuse to go quietly into the night. It was more than survival. It was about the living, breathing spark of hope ignited among them, promising change. And as they moved forward, heeding their instinct, Sarah took a deep breath, heart swelling with courage. They would face whatever came next, and maybe even illuminate the darkness with the truths they dared to reveal. The bond among them ignited like a wildfire, a revolution. In its infancy, with courage as their fuel, they would demand change. And as they took a step forward, there was no looking back. You need to subscribe now to follow this incredible journey and never miss our next story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments with your thoughts. Share this with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Your support matters now more than ever.